Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a new segment called Bob Talks, where I talk to people. And today we've got a very special guest, one of my favorite YouTubers on the internet right now, and that is Esper the Bard. Esper, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Bob. Glad to be here and hearing you talk.
Thank you. And I'm also joined with one of my friends, Stefano. Stefano, how's it going?
Hey guys, it's going pretty well.
So if you are just catching my channel for the first time, this is a Dungeons and Dragons live play channel. I do have quite a bit of content here on my channel already. As Esper, we ran his special new adventure called Blood Lament. We'll talk about that in a bit. Stefano played on it, so I figured it would be nice to have a little conversation where we can get both of you, get the player perspective, we can get the creator perspective, and talk about all the new projects that you have coming out, including your book, The Emporium. So I think we should start there. Let's start with your new book. You are an author now.
I am. Yes, I'm still waiting on my medal to come in the mail, or maybe a badge to sew onto my official author cloak that I must wear. Like I was saying to Stefano earlier, it's definitely a lifelong dream of mine. I took a long time to get it made, bit off more than I could chew, and kind of went over ambitious on the project. There's a little Easter egg in the book itself where I mentioned that early on in a little kind of short story. Actually, what it is, like in the early section of the book, there's a kind of a short story that's written in the way that I would do my old narrated adventures. It's done exactly like how I do the scripts on those.
Yeah, I remember that.
There's,
It's right in the
there's an
beginning.
actual Esper the Bard character
Yep.
encountering a vampire.
It's a vampire, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a bit where she's like, "You're compiling a book of lore, come on," and he's like, "Yeah, it's getting kind of lengthy." And I've found that the tendency is once you kind of get locked into a collection of lore and monsters, the tendency is to go with it as far as you can. It's also a little nod to Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So it's kind of a dual Easter egg there.
Yeah, it was very meta.
Yeah, so it's really big. It shouldn't have been that big, but whatever. We've got a huge tome now, so
So let's do that. Let's dive in. Let's talk about what this is. So obviously, this is a Dungeons and Dragons 5e supplement.
it is. It's player and GM content both all in one. So it's sort of everything all together. It's kind of like two books in one, to be honest. Maybe I should have done two different books.
No,
whatever.
It's good.
Here we go.
It's very extensive. It has a lot of information, but it's all good. I think that any DM could really use it to enhance their adventures.
Yeah, and you also mentioned players and DMs alike. So why would a player want to pick up this book?
Yeah, like the first half or maybe the first third of it is stuff that's player content. There's a new class called Paragon. There are some subclasses for things like fighter, cleric, barbarian, etc. There's a couple races. There's feats. There's spells. What else would be? I think that would be it for the actual player content. There's a bunch of new items, and that's always on the borderland between GM and player content. So I guess it could be used by both.
Right.
And then there's kind of GM exclusive stuff. There's advice for game masters, and it's a bunch of traps. I like traps, and skill type encounters, skill based encounters, and magic shops. Yeah, that probably should have been its own book. That I think could have been a book in unto itself. That would have been cool. But whatever. There's a section in there about magic shops, and there's like a bunch of example magic shops, and they all have their owners and their shop statistics and some kind of lore and little flavor bits, little plot hooks and adventure hooks. And there's a bestiary. Like the whole second half of the book is a freaking bestiary with like 170 monsters in it. So
that's the extensive part of the book for sure, the bestiary. And You know,
Yeah,
it's
I've
funny you say
I've
that.
got a physical copy of the book here. If you'd like me
Oh
to.
yeah, we'd love to
Oh
see
wow,
that.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, right now it's in PDF form because as we are existing in the plague times, the supply chain of kind of everything is screwed up and there's shortages of everything. So it's vastly delayed,
Wow,
the
look at it
physical
though.
printing. But this is what it looks like. It's quite large. It's
That's a
heavy
tome.
too. Like this is at least 1d4 bludgeoning damage here. But it is released. It actually released back on Halloween. So Halloween 2021. So it's out. You can get it. You go to esperthebard.com and you can buy the PDF.
Right.
It's a nice PDF. Like it's got the table of contents that's interactive and it's all it's laid out well. So it's quite good as a digital product. It will be even better once it's a physical product though. So that will happen in 1d6 months.
Since you
It's my guess.
since you showed us the front of the book just now, I'm actually just curious because it's the first thing everyone sees, like what that graphic on the front means. I mean, I'm assuming that's you in the middle, but I'm curious about the wheel all around it.
Well, it's the Esper the Bard character, yes, and so I guess that is me. It is me. It's also me, kind of fantasized. I don't know how
Yes,
that sounds.
of course.
Fantasticalized. Sure. Well, I like art and I like symbols, and this relates actually to the Wheel of Fate. And the Wheel of Fate, not only is it a wonder that's available to the Paragon class, which I just updated it, by the way. It actually needed to be slightly better. So there's an updated version of it.
You're still taking that 4d8 necrotic damage on a 1, I'm sure.
that one didn't get updated. There were a couple that got a little update. So what is the Wheel of Fate? The Wheel of Fate also exists in a fantasy novel series that I've been working on for quite a while that I hope to publish at some point.
And that would be a novel.
They are, yes. I started working on them back in 2013, and actually I've worked on them extensively. So I currently have a 4th draft of books 1 and 2 done, so they're quite done. But I'm going to be doing a 5th draft. I don't think it's going to be a major revision though, but I have a bunch of notes on a document of things that I do want to revise and develop. So it is a 5th draft, but it's not like overhaul the entire thing, 5th draft. And it's in, well, I don't want to talk about the novel too much, but the Wheel of Fate is in the novel, and it's in this book as well as one of the Paragon Wonders, and it's on the cover. So,
so it's important.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the way life is, right? We all have to kind of spin the wheel at some point, and you never know quite exactly what you're going to get. And life has a certain randomness to it. But there are these symbols, right? These kind of archetypal symbols. And I draw upon archetypes and symbols a lot for stuff in my D&D games, in my fantasy writing, and kind of all of that. So they're quite archetypal, right? So like at the top, a winged eye with a kind of pyramid type shape, we can think of like celestials and the divine and sight and vision and knowledge and observing and overlooking from the heights, right? I think that's very deeply archetypal, that runs throughout human cultures and world religions. So that's sort of the lofty divine eye, right? And then down at the bottom there's death, right? The skull. And that's a pretty terrible thing to come upon, but it is part of it all.
It's all part of the wheel.
There's books that represent knowledge and learning and even mystical things, and a monster claw. We've all got a monster inside of us. Sometimes we rage and we Hulk out,
especially the dungeon masters.
Yeah.
Just monsters, all of us.
What do you mean you want to use a battering ram to bust through the wall? You're not supposed to get to that part of the dungeon yet. Random encounter.
A lot of ways to deal with pesky players, for sure.
Right.
So I do want to jump back to some of the more rules stuff, but while we're on it, let's talk about the artwork, because I know, because I was part of the Kickstarter as well. I backed it at
You are a beast lord.
I'm a beast lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the beasts and everything, but the artwork is fantastic. How hard is it to manage art for a project of this scale? Because you had to work with, I'm sure, dozens of artists and get different styles, and yet it still flows together as though it was one cohesive idea. How does that work?
It is a lot of work. Absolutely. Yeah, it was a job amongst many jobs involved with it. I ended up contracting maybe some 20 artists, I think 20, somewhere around there. And I did some of the art as well. And really cool artists. They're from all over the world. I found a lot of them through Reddit. Reddit's a great resource to find artists nowadays. Some of them were artists that I already knew myself, some friends, both local friends and friends abroad. And a couple of them were artists that contacted me, including the wonderful Ashkan Ganbari, who I'm very, very fortunate and happy that he contacted me, because he ended up being one of the, what I'd call MVP artists of the book, both in terms of how fantastic his art is and how much like the style and personality that it has, and also the quantity of pieces that he did.
Is there one in particular you'd like me to put up? I could look at it in the Emporium.
He did the Obardin.
Oh, okay.
The bestiary entry art, and then also the scene of the cover of Blood Lament. There's so many of his that I really loved. The Nike to Sphinx, I was very, very happy with that one. And that's also a monster that was conceptualized in a collaborative live stream that I did. So the commenters gave me ideas and we kind of built it together, we could say. He did the Host of Angels. I really like that one a lot. Argus the Watcher. Oh man, I could keep going. He did a bunch of really cool pieces.
I think I remember the Sphinx live stream. I do think I remember that.
Yeah, that was, I really, really like that monster because it combines one of my favorite animals, the owl, with one of my favorite monsters, the Sphinx. So that's the cool thing about making your own book. You can do exactly what you always wanted to do. Yeah, that's really nice.
And there's not just art for the, concept art for the Paragon and concept art for the different class options and the monsters, but there's full page art inside of the book.
There's a lot of full page pieces. Yeah.
Which is, it's beautiful.
I tried to get every new section to have a full page piece. And then sometimes within the sections, there's more full page pieces too.
Yeah.
Very, very happy with the artists. It was a pleasure to work with them. I did all the art directing, and I got to know the artists throughout that process, and I would learn, kind of how each one operated. Every artist has their own approach and their own method. Some artists are good with a lot of direction, a lot of detail, and you get very precise. And then others, they need just some very rough ideas, and they need a lot of creative space and freedom. And it's like, I don't know, it's the creative world is a very interesting world, and it's a world that I exist in. So yeah, I really try to encourage them to tap into their creativity. A lot of the artists said that they really enjoyed working on the project because they felt so, I don't know, they said it was an inspiring project. It wasn't a boring kind of work, and they got to really dream and play and get everyone likes to do monsters and stuff. That's cool. It's a probably more interesting job than our firm needs a a logo. So I don't know. I guess there's some cool logos nowadays.
There are, but monsters, so much cooler.
Yeah.
You know, that's
some art actually inspired me to make a monster. There's a couple artists that had some
cool.
pre-existing pieces that I commissioned, and just in looking at their work, ideas came to me, and I already had these thoughts of, you know, what that monster would be. And I could talk about the art kind of all day long, because I'm an art lover. There was a bunch of different styles. I really loved the artwork of like 3rd edition D&D. And I didn't play during the older editions, but I still look at the art of like 2nd edition and stuff. And I did a video recently talking about the Monster Manual 3 from 3rd edition, which is a book that I really like, one of my favorite D&D books ever. And you'll see all kinds of art styles in that book, different techniques and different aesthetics all around. And that trend, that's not the current trend. The current trend is for the art to look kind of the same. And the art of 5th edition is very high quality. It's very richly detailed, very, very sophisticated art. And I do think some of the 5th edition art are my favorite representations of monsters. You know, like the cockatrice of 5th edition is really good, and a lot of the demon lords are really well done. But I miss being able to see the different signature styles, the personalities of the different artists. It's the same things with Magic the Gathering. You know, I grew up playing Magic the Gathering in the 90s, and there was just all kinds of different art styles. Now it's all pretty much the same, really good, super high quality. But I'll tell you, I think something can get lost in the hyper detailed style that we have nowadays. I would actually prefer an artist who has a lot of style and personality than an artist who just strictly has a ton of detail and it's just like hyper detailed. So I knew what I didn't want. Like, I didn't want a real cutesy cartoon looks, and it's kind of easy to say what I didn't want, because what might work and what might flow together, I think, is pretty broad. You know, I think some of the art does have almost a comic book look to it, but more like a serious comic book. And then others almost looks like fine art or surrealist art, and kind of everything in between.
Said you did some art yourself too for the book.
Yeah, I did a number of the illustrations, especially with monsters. Yeah.
Is there any monster in particular that you're really proud of that you drew?
That I could put up right here, right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. There were some that I think turned out pretty good. I liked the Sepultura. It's an undead earth elemental. I like how that one turned out. I did the cover, so I'm pretty happy with the cover.
There you go.
The cover.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I love the cover.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Flesh ooze.
Oh, you did the flesh ooze?
A personal friend of yours, Stefano. You and your party.
Yeah, love those oozes.
Yeah, that's one that I would say is kind of a comic book style, but a little more serious end of the comic book style. I did the Ink of Pain too.
Oh, cool. Good.
I did all the undead elementals. I think all those turned out pretty good. I like how those looked. I edited some of the art pieces as well. So some of them were kind of like collaborative pieces. Like, for example, the Warg Wraith. A friend of mine, CJ, did that one. And then I went and I did a revised version of it, let's say. So I would do different things, like I made the snout bone. So I kind of took the folds of the skin and made it look like they were bunching up, and then the rest of its snout actually just became bone. And I made its tongue extend out and kind of wisp off, and I made the back wisp off into shadow, and changed the eye, changed the color scheme to look more, plane of shadow, not really like a low saturation to the colors. So I would do editing on a number of the pieces, and that was
That's cool.
yeah, that was its own job as well.
Yeah. So you were the art director, you were an artist and an editor, all in one for this project.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It just would depend on the piece, though. Some pieces, yeah, they're perfect. A lot of them were just perfect right when they came to me, and I'm like, hey, that's it. Like, put
Done.
in.
Nice.
Some of the pieces that had already existed, I had to do some editing to get them to like fit in kind of more formatting wise, like the Ostrava. The Ostrava is done by the wonderful Ayla Husainovich, and she does very surreal, nightmarish type art. And she already had that piece. And as soon as I saw it, I got inspired for this monster. And I just, this happens to me sometimes. Certain things will inspire me, and I don't know where the ideas come from. They just come up like a freaking kraken out of the depths of the ocean and grab hold of me. So that piece initially just had a pure black background. So if I were to just stick it in like that, it would be a hard edge black rectangle. So I did, I used like an airbrush eraser and did that, what turned out to be this background effect that looks like, I don't know, shadowy branches, shadowy thickets, shadowy woods. So
that's awesome.
Her pieces were awesome. She is another artist that I learned works well with a lot of creative freedom. And the last piece that she did, I gave her a complete 100% creative control. And I just said, I want you to just tap into whatever inspiration you're feeling currently, whatever, like right now at this moment is compelling you, just tap into that, embrace that, and just go and just create whatever is slithering around in the shadowy corners of your mind.
You really let the reins go, huh?
Yeah. And I'm like, make that, and then I'm going to make a monster based off of that. And she made the Dobodame. Well, she just made this thing that became the Dobodame, and was that's one of my favorite monsters in the whole book. It's definitely in like the top 5, I would say. Really, really happy with that one. It's an interesting approach. We hear a lot about the motif of a fallen angel. The fallen motif is pretty common in fiction and fantasy and stuff. So there's fallen angels and dark angels, and devils are angels that rebelled against heaven or that fell to corruption. This is an inverse of that. It's actually a demon that gained a kind of awareness or consciousness and became aware of its own evil, and it rebelled against the abyss, or rebelled against hell, and got ejected out of the lower planes and became this broken creature in the world, wandering these kind of like far-flung, desolate parts of the world. And it clawed out its brain because it couldn't bear the memories of the atrocities that it had committed as a demon. And so it's like a chaotic good fiend that's trying to become a celestial. And depending upon how successful it is through its endeavors, it might become a celestial. It has the staff that it carries around that represents like a branch it grabbed onto. And when it dies, it has like this limited time, and when its time is up, it either succeeded and becomes a celestial and like ascends to the upper planes, and its staff grows into this fruit-bearing tree, or it fails and it becomes this kind of nether creature, banned from heaven, banned from hell, wandering, kind of like this cursed, forlorn soul, and its staff turns into this gnarled, thorny tree.
Love it.
I think that's
really happy.
That's the picture you have right there, right? With the gnarled tree. It's got quite a face on it too, if you could call it that. The Dobodame.
Yes. So it could actually be a helpful creature. I don't know. It's interesting what it might be in the story. It could be one that failed, and so it's this
Yeah.
Forlorn, despairing thing that in madness attacks the party. Maybe you have some kind of proving that you have to do with it. There could be, it could do all kinds of different things.
I
I really
that
got into the
turning of the
different
story there. Like you said, fallen angels, you see that all the time. But a fallen demon or devil, you don't see that all the time. And that would be a great NPC for a party to meet.
it. Oh yeah, yeah. It would be a very memorable NPC.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted. I wanted creatures that they could either add to adventures or they could spawn adventures themselves. Like I wanted the lore to serve as either adventure hooks or something that like added to your world building, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little story that an NPC might tell you, right? Like there's beasts in the book too, animal type things.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
more
wanted lore
mundane.
for them too, right? So there's, there's like a big water snake. I could just say, this snake lives in jungles and swamps and rivers, and it, is a predator that eats animals, and whoa, its poison is strong. And it's like, okay, like, duh, we see that it's a big snake thing eating a boar, and we look at the stat block and it's, a large CR5 with a nasty poison bite attack. So we get the idea. It's a big, dangerous snake. How about a story that an NPC is like telling, like, oh, the people that went to that island and, were exploring the ruins, one of them got bit by this snake and his skin turned this crimson color. And yeah, it's cool. An NPC could talk about that. It's always nice to
the
have something
lore
for an
for these
NPC to say.
monsters is so great, so extensive. I have to say, there's one monster in particular I just happened to stumble upon. The Overseer. I just happened to notice that one
Yeah, just by chance.
by chance. I may have been the contributor for that was my Beast Lord contribution to the book,
Yeah.
but regardless, I gave you a basic concept that was based on Stefano's character background from Descent into Avernus. You then created almost like a creation story, like a way that like a god of light met like a god of darkness, and it was
an outer god, like a like an aberration, elder evil.
And that just came to you, right?
Yeah. I'm always kind of soaking up different sources of inspiration. I'm always looking for inspiration and just try to be open to it in all forms. I think there's inspiration all around. So, it's kind of hard to say where it all comes from, but I think a lot of times I've already had multiple influences or multiple themes that have been percolating maybe in my subconscious, or maybe it's like a collective unconscious. And so different things will converge together. And I think that's what happened here, because I feel different threads of influence in there. One thing that I was very happy about with the Overseer is that it fills a role that I think is missing often in D&D, or even in just fantasy cosmologies, which has to do with the question of, why don't the gods just come to the world and smite all the enemies? There's demon cultists in the in the Undercity. Well, why doesn't the god of light and angels just go there and I am a mirage, just obliterate them all? Why don't demon lords just come into the world and destroy why not? These things exist. They just sit around in their heavenly thrones and their hellish thrones of bone and just brood and plot and go forth, my minions. What is actually holding them back? Fourth edition, interestingly, had an answer to this. I don't know if you guys knew that.
I don't think I did. I've been playing for a long time.
Fourth edition had the primal spirits. These were the spirits of the world. They could be as small as like, a tree spirit, the spirit of a single tree, or like the spirit of a little brook, to huge things like, elder primal spirits that were like, the great world serpent, and the 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 icy hunting cat of the north. So they were like the spirits of the world, which relates a lot to like real world ancient proto religions and animism and shamanism. And so the spirits are together collectively the spirit of the world. And you can even include people in with this as well. You can include like ancestral spirits of people that follow these old faiths. Every once in a while, you'll hear this term, the old faith. Even in 5th edition, there's something in there. It might be with the druid class. So that's what blocked out extra planar titans, let's call them, from invading the world. That was like the kind of shield or filter. Maybe little things could get through easily, but the big things couldn't easily get through. It would really take some special powerful ritual or something way out of the ordinary.
Right.
Gods
some heroes have to stop and thwart. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so it serves that purpose too. So 5th edition doesn't have that in the lore, and that's fine. I think 5th edition is supposed to be kind of setting agnostic or settingless. That's been kind of changing lately, but whatever.
They like the Forgotten
overseer,
realms.
The overseer for me fulfilled that role. Yeah, they're these kind of neutral watchers of the cosmos that want to prevent the world from once again becoming the battleground of gods and demon lords and whatever other mighty titans that want to fight there.
It's a great concept, really is, I must say. Excellent concept.
I was very impressed when I read about it, because it was just really cool. It was like everything that I like thought that it could be. It's like it has all those abilities. I thought there was a time stop, freeze time. That's wild.
Well, when you need to stop stuff, you got to stop it.
Yeah, but the story also goes down to very humble things too, right? So I like to show both. I like to show both the the grand mighty deities, and I also like to show the simple common folk and the everyday simple struggles. I think they're both important. Just like I like
agree.
to show the dark and the light.
Yep.
I think they're both.
The contrast is good.
Yeah, they both have their place.
So definitely we have to touch on, before moving on, we have to touch on the new class that you created in this book, the Paragon. I know that from your newsletter and stuff like that, that you've gone through extensive playtesting and stuff. So you do have so much on the story. And I think that does come first, right? You got to have the story to be, this game is a story-driven game, right? But you also have to have a class that's going to be playable by other people, and they're going to come to expect certain things because they play 5th edition. So what was it like designing the Paragon class?
You're right. It really did go through a lot of different versions and iterations and many phases in playtests after playtests and revisions. So all told, it made it to version 6.5. So 6 complete overhauls, and within each of those overhauls, a number of updates and revisions. That was definitely the most challenging and complex part of the book. Also, it's a complex class. So I guess if it would have been a simpler class, it wouldn't have taken so long. But I wanted a deeper class, something that the player had a number of choices with, and that you could replay the class and still feel interested and inspired with it, not feel like, been there, done that, I've seen everything, I don't ever need to do that again. Some classes, I think, lend more to that than others. Spellcasters, I think, they have an edge in that department, because you could play a wizard, and you could play one kind of wizard with a certain set of spells, but then in the next campaign you could play a wizard again with an entirely different set of spells and maybe a different race, and it would you would still feel interested in that. You wouldn't feel like, oh, I'm just doing the same thing over again. So I wanted something that kind of had that level of depth. It's not that, I wouldn't say it's that deep to the extent of like a wizard, because there's so many spells for a wizard or a cleric.
So many.
But but it is definitely deeper than like a fighter or a barbarian. So it was a long process. Very happy with how it turned out. Really, really happy with the class. Again, it draws a lot from archetypes and symbols and mythology, and it fills some roles or some niches that I've wished were in 5e for quite some time now. The original moment that gave me the idea for this class was actually watching Game of Thrones.
Oh, really?
And I think maybe I'd had these thoughts before ever watched Game of Thrones, but I think Game of Thrones really is what brought it to the forefront of my mind.
Now I'm interested. What brought this on?
Yeah.
Tyrion Lannister, Daenerys as well, and some of the other characters, but really Tyrion was the first one. Then Daenerys quickly came next.
I see.
There's a lot of characters in Game of Thrones that, if they were a Dungeons and Dragons character, you wouldn't know what class to give them. What class is Daenerys Targaryen? She doesn't have any spells that she casts, but there's definitely something magical or supernatural or special about her. She's not a warrior. She's never trained in any martial art or weapons training. She's definitely some kind of leader type. She always has somebody near to her that is a companion that usually is like a warrior type, that is more of a direct combat person.
Yeah, that's interesting.
She's got Jorah Mormont. Before that, she has Khal Drogo. And then later there's some other people that will be near to her, and she has her dragons. Tyrion, what class is Tyrion? Oh, he's a rogue. Well, he's certainly roguish. He's certainly a scoundrel, but he's not like a sneak attacking guy. He's not a cunning action guy. He's not dexterous, especially if you read the book. He's got
a lot of charisma. I'll tell you that much.
He has a lot of charisma. Yeah. He's almost like a charisma rogue, but he doesn't have any of the class features that we would associate with a rogue. He's something else. He's some other kind of special maneuver using scoundrelly type of guy. He's a kind of a trickster
Paragon.
Yeah. I thought of a lot of different things, and the original version of the Paragon, like version 1, was you weren't actually particularly very good with combat, but you had all these kind of wonder type abilities, what later became the wonders, that you could do things through your persuasiveness, your charisma, your tricks, your strategies, and also something special about you, something that is in this mythical tradition, right? Where there's somebody who either they have something in their blood, maybe they have some kind of divine blood mixed in, maybe they were born under some star, maybe they got, blessed or imbued at some kind of magical location, something. Luke Skywalker, he's just a farmer in the desert. No, actually there's something very special about him, even though he doesn't know it. And if he takes his hero's journey, right, he'll meet these helping people along the way and come to unlock these very special abilities. Even though Luke Skywalker doesn't cast any spells, but he does have something supernatural about him. So the original Paragon, you yourself did have this kind of special qualities, mystical, even at times, force of influence. But you had this companion who did all of the direct fighting. That got scrapped fairly early on, I think just in version 2 or maybe version 3, because it is D&D. In the end, the player character needs to be the hero, the champion, the main character, and the companion does need to be the companion,
or at least an option.
The way that it ended up, I think there is a way. I know there is, because I've seen it played, where you can make a sovereign paragon where you're not good at combat, and rarely do you do anything directly, and your companion is a pretty good fighter type, a pretty good warrior type. A good friend of mine, he played a campaign where he played a sovereign who was quite weak physically. Like his strength, his dex, and his con all were bad, but his mental ability scores all were good. And so he was very, very influential, very wise, very, very strategic. And his companion was pretty strong in direct combat. And he rarely would do any direct attacks on enemies. And it was a very interesting character, and it functioned perfectly well. But I've also seen sovereigns where the sovereign's got on some good armor and a good weapon and is strong and is right up in the front fighting.
Yep.
And the companion is merely a companion, just like a secondary ally, or almost like a sidekick. I don't know if that's the right word to use there, but
That's what Tasha's calls them.
Okay.
I thought it was
Are there sidekicks in Tasha's?
Yep, they're like a way to the way to bring in an NPC that can do stuff. You could be like a tricky roguish sidekick, a spellcaster of some sort, and then there's a warrior. But
Wizards of the Coast been spying on me again.
They spied on you. Stefano, why don't you tell us what it's like to play with or alongside two Paragons?
Well, one of the things I wanted to mention was John, who played Adrastos, the myth of the hero.
Yeah, he played the hero, yeah.
He always kept mentioning to me that he felt like Achilles as he was playing. And of course, the hero, if I had to use classes from 5e, it almost seems like a part fighter, part paladin almost. Okay. So it's more of a frontline fighter for sure. And the trickster, which we didn't have in the campaign, is almost kind of like a part rogue, part ranger. And even in that first level ability, I thought was really good. The spry combatant, where you get a 1d10 for your one-handed weapons. And I thought just combining that with something like the dagger expert feat that you had could make, you could fight at long range and do the 1d4 damage, or if it's not too dangerous, you could run up and you can attack with the dagger, and a dagger could become a much deadlier weapon, which I thought was a kind of a cool combination. But the Sovereign's the one that I thought was, certainly if I got to play a Paragon, that's the one that I would be interested in, because I like options. And I think the Sovereign has a lot of options. It's got spell casting. It could be a decent fighter. It can have some buffing or support abilities. You get the Companion, which gives you kind of another action on your initiative. And of course, the wonders. I mean, all of them get wonders, but I do find that the Sovereign is kind of like a jack of all trades, not the ability from a bard, but it does have a lot of options. And I like to have options depending on how the tide of battle is going. You can choose one of the options to help your party members. But it was a lot of fun. Everyone was gushing about the class, and I'm certainly hoping that Bob allows it in some of his future campaigns.
Oh yeah, definitely. I almost feel like I allow anybody to do, I almost feel like I should limit it sometimes, but I pretty much just say use whatever you want. I mean, as long as it seems reasonable. And I love this book, so I'm down for anybody who wants to play a Paragon anytime.
Good on you, man. Good on you, Bob.
Yeah. I also one of the wonders that I liked, which was also an option for the gladiator subclass for the fighter. I love Netcaster.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Nets are a very underrated item, or rarely ever used item that I think can really be not necessarily powerful, but they could work really well depending on your initiative order.
They can be very powerful. Yeah, restraining can sometimes really screw up an enemy.
And so I love that. I also highlighted the Wheel of Fate, which we touched upon. I think that would be really good for kind of flavor for your character, where almost you are guided by fate. It's like the what's the sorcerer, the random sorcerer
The
table.
wild
Chaos.
magic.
Yes, yes. It reminded me of that, but I like the idea of
So tell the viewers what that is. The wheel of this feature.
okay, I gotta find the page. But essentially it's
You
a
roll a
fifth,
d12.
yeah, it's a fifth level wonder. It's a fifth level wonder where you roll a d12. And some of the options can be a huge boon for you, and some of the options can be not so good for you. And one of them, which I thought was really interesting, I don't remember the exact amount of damage, but it was similar to like casting a explosion centered on you, and anyone that's caught in the
Inferno.
explosion, yes. So if you think about creating your character in a way where it maybe you're a tiefling paragon, that's something that wouldn't be as harmful or something like that.
Okay.
Of course, you'd have to roll it.
Mhm.
But I just love the idea of creating a character who sometimes has to depend on fate or depend on luck, and you use that in your role play. I think every paragon should think about taking Wheel of Fate.
Okay. It's not a wonder for people that really want a predictable power gamer
Mhm.
type option. If you're that person, don't take it.
Right.
But if you like the thrill of the randomness and you like to improvise based off of random results, then it could be a wealth of inspiration for you.
The other question I had for you was, have you picked up or looked at any of the Adventures of the Forgotten Realms magic set?
I played that set extensively.
Okay.
Actually, that was the only set that I ever reached Diamond on Magic Arena.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Nice.
Because I remember when I first got it, seeing the class cards that had 3 stages
Mm.
and thinking that the 3 stage abilities were very cool. And I kind of thought of the epic wonders when I was relating to the class cards in Magic the Gathering. And of course,
Again,
the epic
wizards-
wonders are huge.
Wizards taken from you again.
I think there's something already in 5th edition that's like that, isn't there? There's a spell that has different
Stages?
phases.
Not
There's
that
some
I
spell
know
that
of.
has different phases that it goes through.
Maybe, but-
I think there is.
I like to think they took it from you.
Okay, we'll go with that.
One of them that I happened to write down that I thought was great, because we had CJ and Rhyme of the Frost Maiden, he had the bag of tricks.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So we have madcap tricks, which also has a degree of randomness where you roll
Yes.
each time you roll a d4, and it could be bees, or it could be like a shriek that stuns enemies. And I thought that was great.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
As you mentioned these, I think of different Paragon characters that I've gotten to see over the last couple of years, and
Oh, they
there have
pull
been
these
some
off.
very, very memorable trickster Paragons.
Oh, that's perfect, yeah.
Quite like that class.
It's
the
another one.
trickster is-
Sorry, yeah.
It's kind of like a rogue, but once you see it get played a lot, it begins to feel less and less rogue-like. But it is kind of like it, right? It's kind of, I don't know, it's hard to say. It's like a little bit rogue, a little bit bard, a little bit maybe illusionist wizard, plus its own thing.
But again, because of the vast amount of wonders, you can flavor it the way that
You can.
want.
You
Yeah,
really
it's,
can,
I really wanted the class to be very customizable and very versatile, flexible, like how spellcasters can often be, yet always still feel like Paragon.
yes.
So I think that got managed with a decent degree of success.
I think it was great.
It's an awesome class.
Thank you.
It really
Thank
is.
you. I really appreciate that. And just to clarify for people who were listening, what you mentioned about the 3 stages. So the some of the wonders are epic wonders, and they have a 3 consecutive round effect. So you use your action. It could be an action, or it could be a bonus action, depending upon that specific wonder. Let's say it's an action. It requires an action to use it. So you spend your action and you do the first round's effect. Then on your next turn, you spend an action again and you do the second round's effect. Then on your third consecutive turn, again, you spend an action to do the third round's effect. If you don't spend that action, though, the Epic Wonder ends. So you have to use the action every turn. Otherwise, it's kind of like how you can lose concentration on concentration spells.
Right.
And you can't have two Epic Wonders active at the same time. So there are some balancing mechanics in there with it. But yeah, they're fun. And a lot of them, a lot of them are actually like, they're like combos. I kind of thought of combos, for a lot of video games have combos and the card games have combos. So you can, some of them are like a 1, 2, 3 combo, right? Round 1, round 2, round 3, they set themselves up. A few of the epics, you can choose what order the effects go in, particularly with the Trickster. That's kind of a theme with the Trickster, is he can often pick what order they go in. Some of them you can set up how the combo works. But yeah,
some of them heal, some of them buff, and some of them are used for combat.
Yeah, and there is a little bit of spell casting in there.
Yeah,
you can, particularly with the Sovereign, you can build a Paragon that's almost a half caster. It's not quite. It's the spell casting with Paragon's a little different. You don't ever get spell slots. They're all just innate spells where it's like you can use this once per day, or once per long rest.
Yes.
But yeah, if you build it that way, you can get a fair amount of spell casting.
Yeah, it's a very versatile class, and the 2 players that we had that ran them, they want to play more. I have a nice way to transition now the conversation to the adventure we ran, Blood Lament. So this was an adventure that was created, I guess you had the kernel of it before Esper's Emporium, but when you reached a certain stretch goal, I forget what level it was, but you included this with your Kickstarter.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So I'm going to show a quick little video here. I'm going to put it up so that we're going to be able to see you reacting to some of the feedback from the players at the end of our the final session. All right, take a look at this.
Okay.
You let me know. What are you thinking about this adventure?
I'm thinking that we'll be back, Esper, when you write a 5th level adventure.
Yeah, if anyone has the opportunity, to get one of these classes, these new races included, I actually recommend it. It's so much fun to play something new. I want to play Myth of the Paragon for a much longer campaign. I really, really enjoyed this.
I would say that I really loved all of this content, like not only the characters, but also the story writing and just like how detailed this plot was. Oh my gosh. And just like, man, some of that story really hit deep, like the Paragon and just the whole backstory and the way that unfolds over the course of the adventure. I thought it was just so thoughtfully written and really, really engaging and fun from the perspective of the player.
There's no one person that like gives you an exposition dump, and it's not like one document either. You found multiple kind of artifacts, documents, people that kind of spread the story out over the course of, our 4 sessions. But yeah, it was great. It was just it felt like a natural way to convey the story to you without feeling like I had to give you something or hand wave something.
I'd love to hear more stories from this world. I thought it was a really rich, detailed world. It was a lot of fun to play it.
It's written in a very bard-like artistic way. So Esper, please write more. I would love to play more of your stuff.
All right, so what do you think?
Thank you, everybody, Stefano and Bob and the whole group. That means a lot to me. I'm thrilled that you guys enjoyed it so much.
And really did.
Thanks. I'm particularly happy that Michelle liked the story so much, because that's really that's my roots. That's what I come from, actually, is storytelling and listening to stories and reading books and telling stories around the campfire and whatnot.
The Bard.
Yeah.
I was playing Warhammer 40K with Andrew at our gaming club on Monday, and he just out of the blue, he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And he's like, "We're setting our armies up," and he was like, "I was thinking about Blood Lament over the week." He's like, "That story was so dark, and yet like
Yeah,
and yet
yeah, it's a very dark.
so
story.
like fulfilling at the end that he's like, I really would have been upset if we had not succeeded. So, you know,
If you had died to the flesh ooze.
yeah, that was tough combat.
Well,
but he
I think it
still
was
thinking
John.
about
Was it John? Right? Who was like, "There's something foul and awful in there. Let's just
let's
leave this
leave."
room." And I'm like, "That's pretty good advice."
The hero.
No, they're gonna. Fontaine is like, "No, this could harm someone else. We must strike down this abomination." Oh, okay.
And then while we stood in the room trying
And
to
they
decide
just
what
you guys
to
just
do,
stand there like, oh God, we're dying.
yeah, Bob says it starts creeping through, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. But we never went down there. Did we ever go down there? Was anything
No.
down there? No, don't tell us. I don't
explored
know.
it.
Don't tell us.
Someone explored it. I think
Yeah,
it
no.
was. I think it was Adrastos that
Yeah.
went and took a peek at the at the cesspit.
Yep.
That
was
it
a-
was
Well,
a
they're
very.
just standing there fighting this thing. Oh my gosh!
I did really enjoy, in particular, the Paragon and the sorry, what was it called? The flesh ooze. That's what it's called.
Fleshies.
So because it was, you're only fighting one creature, and sometimes when you have a group of 5 plus a companion, you'd think, oh, this guy's going down, and we struggled with it. It was,
I don't wanna-
No, that's what a group of orcs think when they fight a fireball
Right.
slinging wizard.
I don't want to
True.
spoil anything. I don't want to give any spoilers about the adventure because I
Oh
want
yes, no spoilers.
to-
Yeah, because I
play
will
it.
actually be running the adventure on my channel shortly here in
mhm.
probably just a couple weeks.
That's right.
So,
Yeah, I'm excited
yes.
for that.
So if anyone who's going to be playing in that is watching, no metagaming.
That's right. Now, if you
I'm
could
gonna
though,
make you
could give us a
anti-metagaming. Your character will be ignorant as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Can you give us a brief description, a teaser of what someone would expect if they were to play Blood Lament?
Okay, so you're right. It is connected with the Emporium. It uses content from the Emporium. However, Blood Lament works by itself. Somebody could have Blood Lament and not have the Emporium, and it works because I put all the stat blocks of the monsters that are in the adventure. That's redundant,
Yep.
but it has everything in there that you need to run it. So
It was so helpful.
yes. So you can get it from the same place on my website, esperthebard.com. It's on there too. And it's intended to be like this setting that you can put in any other setting. It's supposed to be kind of this modular little region that you could kind of implant into any world. And even when it references things like gods, it never uses a name of a god. It always will just say like, the god of war, the god of tempest. So, right, you can just connect that with whatever god or domain from the world, and you could fill in the blank with the proper names. That said, I kind of did make a world. Yeah. So we'll see if it grows into its own setting. I don't know. It's definitely a organic thing that I'm just going to let it kind of grow on its own. I don't think I'm not going to do any like top down world building. It did grow out of a seed. So there was this old Blood Lament little narrated adventure on my channel.
I've seen that.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
you may be one of the last. I'm putting it private because I'm going to be releasing the actual Blood Lament, the new one. And it actually was set in the world that my novels that I mentioned, that world, which is called Novara. But I've since stopped trying to play D&D in the world of Novara because it doesn't actually fit. I love D&D, but it does have its limitations, or even kind of the opposite problem where it's so much, right? It's so expansive into this anything goes ultra high magic that it doesn't always mesh with every kind of setting. so I've separated those two, and I've learned that Novara actually is better just for novels. But where am I going with all this? It is a dark story. It is. It's a dark story. It has elements of tragedy. It has elements of there's a lot of religious and mystical elements in it. There's secrets and mysteries. There's little bits and characters and NPCs all over it, but I tried to not dump too much at once. I tried to measure it out. Strange, terrifying monsters, traps, secrets.
Yep. Dark secrets, and what's the tagline? Oh gosh, it was on every
Dark
every
secrets
waiting
and
screen.
mystical terror.
That's it. Mystical terror. And it was so much fun to run. Like from the DM's perspective, I mean, if you're a follower of my channel, you know that I do love to run. I love one shots. I love to run community created material as well as 5e published stuff. And I've read so many modules in my time playing D&D, and it was easy to read. There was a lot of information, like there was, but it wasn't like to the point where I was getting bogged down. It was hard to follow. It was just so, and like you said, the references, so helpful. Like everything was easy to read and follow. The traps that are new are easy to figure out, and you don't have to do a lot of prep for it as well. I feel like it does flow naturally, and even the dungeons they do. So I loved it.
Cool.
It's
kind of a longer adventure, so I chuckled at first when you said you're going to do it in 2 sessions on, and I thought, get out of here.
Part 4 of 2.
I think three sessions would be a speed run.
Mm-hmm.
4, I think 4 is reasonable. 4 or 5 is probably what I would expect.
I have a tendency to, I like to let the characters role play, and so I'd be like, yeah, okay, I can see how this goes. 2 sessions. And then it's easily 4. So
yeah, I also like to give the characters space to role play and explore and discover, and I like to improvise a lot of things. So it could be more than 5 sessions. I mean, if you really dig into it, it could be, I don't know how many. It's a decently long adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You heard it, everybody. Long
I'm
adventure.
curious.
You want to add it to your group. Long adventure. You want to add to your group. You want to give yourself some nice story to add to your campaign. This is the one for you.
Cool.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I might make a 5th level adventure that picks up from the end of Blood Lament, because I have some ideas in my mind. And Bob, maybe you noticed like there's some little threads in there that are still open that could continue the story along.
You very easily could. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at the picture of the fertile splay, which is not a spoiler. You told us about it before we even started.
Yeah.
And again, there are locations on here that we didn't even touch upon that I thought if a DM or I'm sure you have a lot on your plate, but I would love if you expanded on this world a little bit. It would be interesting because I know one side there might even be a village of swamp dwarfs, which is one of the new races
in the north. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the north is the Delta region, so there are definitely swamp dwarves there.
And the idea of the Icoriite. Did I get that right? Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Just possible like ruins, or even maybe in the middle of a fountain area where there's this statue that everyone knows, and all of a sudden this statue could come to life, and there could be
Stefano,
lore behind the statue.
You played one of them. What is it?
I did. It's a statue that is given sentience by the gods and given a divine purpose, a god. It was a lot of fun to play. I particularly enjoyed having that natural armor because I always like to have a higher armor class. And I used your feat that was specific for the Icoriite, the boon to the Bronzen Sentinel, which gives you 4 options. Again, I talked about armor class. I chose the armor class, but one of the ones that I really liked that I decided not to use because of its kind of cantrip, where it grows in damage as you level up. where you have like kind of a gem,
Yeah.
and the gem can shoot out kind of like a 1d10 firebolt, but it can be of different elements. Where at a level 5 adventure, I'd take it in a second because I get that 2d10. You know, all players think alike. How much damage can I do?
Sure. What was your channel divinity option that you picked for your Icoriite?
I believe it was the peace domain. It was either peace or order. I
Okay.
get confused. It's the one where you can run around.
Yes, the peace domain one.
Yeah,
That's a
peace
really
domain.
strong one.
Yeah.
There's a peace domain cleric in my local D&D group that I'm running for my local group of friends. And yeah, that channel divinity is very strong, particularly at low levels.
Right, right. Because you need as much healing as you can get at those low levels.
Yeah,
And,
I have a tendency to make pretty hard adventures and campaigns. I like the difficulty to be up decently high.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
fifth edition's harder to kill characters for sure.
there were at least 2 instances where 2, possibly 3 of us were down during that adventure. Yeah.
I wasn't sure you guys were going to survive the flesh ooze.
Flesh ooze.
Yeah, I was sitting there chatting with a friend of mine on WhatsApp, and I was like, I don't know if they're going to make it out of this. Oh no, another one went down, and
They got lucky.
I mean, you know, I like I said, first round, I get a crit, I do a mess of damage. I'm like, yeah, and then it's all downhill from there.
And usually it's the other way around. It's like the first round, the monster unleashes something awesome, and the party freaks out, and the DM's like, ha, ha, ha. And then after that, it's just once you've gotten through a full round of the players dumping hellfire onto the monster, and the poor thing's like, oh, I'm restrained and paralyzed and unconscious, and
well, that was another
ongoing damage, and they all have advantage against me, and now I have disadvantage on everything, and I'm dead now.
That was another great thing about some of the monsters, and I'll try to be as vague as possible, but they did a lot more than just attack.
Yeah,
sure.
And it's a lot. You have to employ a lot more strategy when a monster can have some lingering effects.
Yeah, man, don't just stand there with the flesh like eating it right in your face. Like, come on. I like dynamic monsters, and a lot of my monsters I design that the players really, it would behoove them to switch up their tactics.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
Run away, kite it.
If you do just toe to toe, like I'm just going to stand there, hit, it can get hairy.
I mean, you know,
it might not be the optimal strategy.
Standing in a line is always the best idea for players to do, right?
Yeah.
Let's all bunch up as close together as we can.
Yeah. That's funny. A friend of mine has been running a campaign that I play in when I can, and he likes to use he's been using monsters from the book. So I've gotten a taste of my own medicine fighting against some of my monsters, and it's been a blast.
Oh, that must be fun.
Yeah.
Fighting your creations.
It's different running the monsters in my campaigns or in play tests versus me playing a character in a campaign. And I really get into character, and I even though I'm actually not a big stickler about metagaming personally, that might be surprising to some people. I don't really care about it. That it doesn't bug me that much. But when I'm playing a character, I'm very non-metagame. I just try to get into character is what I'm trying to say. So I try to think like, how would this character react to this situation? You know, what would he think about suddenly out of the mist, these ghostly fog specters appear, and you know, what would I do with that? I'd roll the wheel of fate. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm playing a trickster paragon in that campaign.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense then.
There's going to be 2 Icoriites in my Blood Lament. One is an actual character, like the player character, and then another one is the companion of a sovereign paragon.
Oh, cool.
Which I think is a really cool option. So the character's a human. He's a sovereign paragon human with some ties to the fertile splay setting. And then his companion is an Icoriite that's actually who served his father for a time and is now going to serve the the player can serve
I
the
like
sun, and there's a divine purpose with the
Oh, I like that.
with the companion. Yeah, it's going to work really well in the story, I believe.
That
That's
made me
cool.
think of another option that I was talking about recently. I think it's the myth of the hero. When they reach level 20, they can choose how they die. Is that what it was?
That's all. That's just a general Paragon feature.
Oh, that is a
Okay.
general Paragon feature. I loved the option of their soul going into some sort of object or artifact or weapon.
Mhm.
And then, if you're doing several ongoing campaigns, or you do another campaign set in the same world,
Yep.
you could come across that item and it could have the personality of a previous character,
Mhm.
which I think
That's
is very cool if you have long campaigns that are connected.
Yep.
It's a really amazing feature for
Nice.
some DMs.
Thanks, man. Well, like I said, I love storytelling and world
Yeah.
building, so I try to always think about those sorts of things as I'm designing stuff. So that would be like my highest hope that someone would utilize it in that way.
What do you think about DMs using Blood Lament, but even trying to expand it? For example, one of the things that we did was we were in one location and then we were in another location. If they want to expand it by using travel and maybe stopping at some of these other locations, and for example, there was a part where we had to cross a river to get to somewhere.
Alboros Ford.
Yes. So what if they had wanted to have some sort of event happen in Alboros Ford, or maybe something happens while they're crossing the river, and maybe even start the campaign at a lower level and have expand the campaign? What would
I think that's kind of implied, right? In the adventure, you kind of talk about it as like there's these things that happen on their path. I obviously, for our purposes of our live stream,
I didn't have that side.
Yeah. But I would totally do the same thing, right? Expand the travel, and that's more opportunity for the characters to get to know each other, because we said you knew each other, but like if it was just a more organic meeting, then your travel is your chance. What do you think, Esper?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's definitely something that could be done quite readily. And most of the locations, I try to give a few details, at least a few lines as to what the place is or what's going on there. The Golden Palace, I think a lot could happen there too. Aket, the Queen of the Golden Palace, she has these challenges that she has, like these ongoing challenges where people can attempt these sort of impossible feats, but if you can somehow succeed or find a clever way to succeed, she has like rewards that she will give. So, and there could always be random encounters, right? Like, see, not spoilery. When you go from the one important place to find that other important place, yeah. There's, I think there could be some random encounter in there. Actually, Bob was utilizing one of the creatures that dwells near the other important place. And there was a moment where I'm like, whoa, okay, this is going to get brought into the kind of a trap encounter that you were at there.
Yeah, I won't say what it is. It was in episode 3, but my goodness, I was like, you guys gotta do something right now, because otherwise you're in real trouble. But look,
Bob knows how to put on the pressure to increase the rising, to make the tension begin to rise, and that's the wondrous effect.
Thank you. All right, so I love Blood Lament. Go check it out on your site. Last topic of discussion here that I want to jump to is kind of going to the beginning here. I mean, I've been following your channel for years now, but your YouTube channel, you're kind of like one of the original D&D YouTubers. You started this way back, right? When did you start YouTubing?
August 2009 was my first video.
Wow.
How to play D&D. Yeah. All right, I'm starting my video upload. I'm going to go to dinner and to work, and I'll check it tomorrow morning when I wake up. Maybe it'll be uploaded then.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my first D&D video, August 2009. I think
Wow.
August 2009.
What was that video? Do you still have it on the?
I've left it up. Yeah, sure. How to play D&D.
Oh, perfect.
It is not a great video. Definitely not a highlight of my channel nowadays, but is my humble origins. So I'll leave it up there. I tend to leave up a lot of my videos, my old ones. Sometimes I'll take one into private, but you know,
I like
actually that's kind of the weak spot of my channel, or it's definitely the least. It's not my strength in is the like high production value. I've gotten kind of better at it over the years, and I'm trying to get better at it. Actually, Bob, once again, thank you for giving me some tips about OBS the other day. That's something that I'm going to be using. So you'll see a better presentation soon on my channel.
And when you have that, when you do the live stream, I'll also post it down below in the comments here, so that people could link to it. So once it's up, they can see it as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So maybe someone could watch the Bob Blood Lament and the Esper Blood Lament and see the very different. Actually, you know what? As much as your group has its own tone, which I think is a very fun tone, I still would feel the feeling of Blood Lament, like the adventure itself, like how I felt when I was writing it. It came through, and that was just fascinating to me. But yeah, people get to see the different personalities, so that's cool. I've got also a colorful bunch of players, so I think the amusements will only continue.
Do you want to tease some of them? Tease who's playing?
Yeah, there's AJ Pickett and Jared, who's known as Your Pocket GM. That's the name of his channel. So AJ Pickett from YouTube, Your Pocket GM from YouTube, JB Little from dropthedie.com. He does a lot of different D&D content, has for many years. And then a special guest, Demos, who I recently met through great fortune and serendipity.
Tell me he's playing a Paragon then.
Jared, Your Pocket GM.
Is Demos playing a Paragon?
No, actually not.
Okay.
He's playing a swamp dwarf majesty cleric.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then Jared is playing a human sovereign paragon with an Icoriite companion, the Sentinel. And AJ is playing a dragonborn trickster paragon. And JB is playing an Icoriite gladiator fighter.
That's awesome. Sounds like a good group.
It is. Yes. I'm very much looking forward to it. And I'll let these guys run amok in this strange world of the Fertile Splay.
So you're going to be live streaming. You have a campaign that live streams on your channel rather regularly, right?
Yeah. Our typical schedule is every other Sunday.
Gotcha.
Every once in a while, we have to shuffle that around a little bit due to life reasons, but typically it's every other Sunday.
Gotcha. So you do some live streaming. You have...
Yep, I've been live streaming campaigns for a few years now, actually.
Yeah, you had the two
long
campaigns, right?
ongoing campaigns.
Yeah. So what other things do you do on YouTube? I mean, I'm a big fan of everything you've done, but I mean, I like all the rankings but is that really what you like to do the most? What's your favorite type of video to make?
Mm-hmm. Really, I'm going to go back to what I said before, that, my original mode of being as a storyteller and an artist. So whenever I have an opportunity to actually just play D&D and be immersed in the story, that's my favorite. So it could be playing a campaign, like a live streamed campaign. It could be doing a narrated adventure, which I might be doing another one of those in the near future. I will say no more, but I've done a number of them, and those I very much like, where I present an adventure, usually in episodes or in installments, and behind the scenes, I've I've played it out, or I play it out. I do the rolls and I take notes and write a script based off of what is actually happening. So it's very much a live, real adventure, but it's presented in a narrated format as opposed to something that I've live streamed or recorded with other people. So it's very focused, and it doesn't have table chatter and that element of it in there. Those would be my very favorite. I do a lot of videos where I critique and analyze and rank and rate and do tiers of different lists, and those are cool in their own way. You know, I think that gets into the more there's a sort of competitive side of D&D. Even though D&D isn't a competitive game, there's something about it where we do feel this competitiveness where you're trying to succeed, or is this option better than that option, and is this monster well developed, or is that one done better, right? There's this interplay. It's a cooperative kind of competition.
Well, don't tell the players that, because that's all they want to do. They want to build the strongest, most powerful character that can defeat every monster. Then the DM just has to double the monsters. So
not always.
No, not always.
You have slaughtered the demon lord.
I did it.
But you didn't notice the strange brain creature creeping up behind you. Make an intelligence saving throw.
Yep.
No, I just want to make sure my companions know that I dealt the killing blow.
Oh, that's it.
From a DM perspective, what I always tell the players is, I'm on your side, unless it's the monster's turn. Then I'm on the monster's side.
Right. So you lie to them. Got it.
No, I'm really on everyone's side. It just depends whose turn it is. If it's the player's side, I really do want to help them, find a way to, express whatever tactic or plan they have in mind. Sometimes they're not sure, like, can I do this, or is that some skill I can use? So I always try to advocate for the player and encourage them and give them a lot of freedom. But then when it comes to the monster's turn, I'm in the monster's head.
Yep.
And I'm willing to go there. Yeah,
I share your mindset completely.
I'll
Stefano
go there,
knows.
Yeah,
the hard way.
How do you feel about being on the brink of 100,000 subscribers?
Ooh,
it's a big goal, something that I've wanted to hit for a long time now. So who knows? Maybe I'll do a live stream, like at the exact moment that it happens, and I'll be bursting into tears of joy.
You should do live stream.
Long time coming, man. Long time coming. Honestly, I wish that I could be more productive and make better content and be more successful. I think I have greater potential that I'm not reaching, that I'm not tapping into. So I'm always trying to develop and improve. Sometimes I develop faster and sometimes I develop slower, but
well, you got to stop writing books.
You're right. Sometimes you're working on a 300 and something page book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
But,
I know you said there's a bit of a delay, but do you have a ballpark idea of when we can start getting a physical copy of your book?
Ooh.
The best ballpark, based on what the print company just told me yesterday, is March or April.
Okay.
So
it's not too far.
I told you this. I got all the Kickstarter updates. We can wait.
Hopefully within 2 or 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
We can wait. We waited.
Yeah. Yeah.
To get to this point.
I feel really bad. I feel guilty that I haven't got the physical book out to people yet, and I don't feel good about it. It really bothers me. So I know people have been very patient and very understanding, and I'm glad for that. But there's this voice in the back of my mind that's like, yeah, but for every grateful, patient person, there's like 20 people that are like, what is this Esper charlatan? So
well, Some of these things are out of your.
It's kind of
control,
rough, honestly. It's kind of rough, but I'm getting through it, and I'm learning from the experience. It's been a big learning experience for me. So, not gonna write a 350-page book for my next project.
Fair enough.
No,
Fair enough.
no. I do have my
10
next
years
big
from now.
project in the works right now,
Ooh.
and it's not going to be a massive, huge, giant, sprawling thing that takes forever and costs me $1 million. It's going to be kind of a medium size. We'll see, but hopefully that will also take place during second quarter this year.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm excited to hear about it.
Yeah.
Couple last questions before we close out here. These are more just kind of wild card questions. Could be anything. All right. Now, obviously, you did a great job writing a story. You heard all my players talk about it. I only had to give them $50 each to say those things as well. So, but you primarily you are the DM when you play D&D.
Mm-hmm. Usually.
How often do you get to
Sometimes I
play?
get to play a character. I would say I DM 95% of the time.
I feel you.
Something like that.
I feel you.
I love DMing, though it is nice to get to play a character sometimes. Jared, your pocket GM fellow, who is going to be in my Blood Lament, he ran a short campaign or maybe a long adventure module. Not quite sure how to parse that. And he would run it on Fridays for a while. And I played with some other online friends of mine. And sometimes I'd almost find myself kind of dozing off because I was so relaxed. Like, oh, I didn't have to prep anything except just some character notes. I don't have to manage the world.
Yep.
I don't have to track I'm just relaxing and just having a good time playing a character. And he can have a very soothing voice, particularly when he's like GMing. Yeah, I think as a player, he's more kind of wild and animated, but as a GM and as a YouTuber, he has a very soothing voice. So I would be here. It was like the end of the week, like Friday afternoon, had gotten through all the week's work and was just relaxing. And he had this like very pleasant voice. And it's like, please, ASMR DM, tell me more as I doze off here in my chair. Oh, it's my turn. What's happening? Where am I? Oh, yeah, right. We're almost dead. Okay. Power attack.
Stefano, I haven't put
Disengage, run
anybody
away.
through,
What's up? Sorry, what's up, Bob?
What
I haven't put
system are we
anybody to
playing?
sleep,
Is this
have I?
Pathfinder? What? Oh,
have I put anybody to sleep?
Have you put anybody to sleep?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
If I lulled you into a stupor?
We've put some of your monsters to sleep.
Fair enough.
It's more his vocal delivery when he GMs and when he makes his YouTube videos. Just go check it out. Your Pocket GM. Particularly check out his Curse of Strahd guide, for example. Like you could put that on to go to sleep. It could be like your bedtime story. It's not boring. I don't mean it to come off like that. It's actually very it's well written and well narrated, very well narrated. It's just a soothing voice is all.
I checked it out.
I have trouble sleeping, so thanks for the tip.
There you go.
Cool.
My pocket
Yeah,
GM.
who knows? I might create a second channel, an ASMR D&D channel.
That would be something.
I could have my dice clacking near the microphone.
Right.
And now
Could
I try to decapitate the kobold. And
You could
You
do
have a
your
good voice
his
too.
blood squirts out everywhere.
you could narrate your prologue. That could be their first one.
We'll see. I mean, I do like to experiment with different styles of video. I think I would probably need to make a different channel for that. I think that's far enough different. I don't know. I might get some weird reactions from some subscribers.
It'll grow quickly.
What the hell is this?
All right, next random question here. Completely random. In the beginning of your book, you have a little forward to one of your teachers. And being teachers, both Stefano and I,
Yeah.
what were some real life inspirations, and who's this teacher?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, appreciation to both you two for being in the educational system. Teachers have an extremely important and crucial role in the development of people at all stages of life, from grade school teachers with children to college professors to coaches that have areas of expertise. And that doesn't always get the recognition that it deserves. So you all have my clap of encouragement and my appreciation for doing that job. This was my 5th grade teacher, Mr. Z, and he was a very influential teacher. I had some not good teachers. I think we all have some not good teachers. He was definitely one of the best teachers I've ever had. A very encouraging teacher, an enthusiastic fellow. He had a really loud, bombastic, enthusiastic voice, and
That helps.
he was one of the few people who I would let get away calling me by my last name. And he would read books to us in class. He'd always read to us. He read a bunch of different books throughout 5th grade. Some great things. He read like Hatchet, and I always forget the name of the book, but it's that boy who like runs away from home, and he has these sneakers that he wears throughout the whole story, and he like makes friends with a guy who's living on the street later. Max something. Gosh, he read Island of the Blue Dolphins and Where the Red Fern Grows. Just a bunch of really, really good, kind of classic, staple mid-grade novels. He read a book that I wrote. I used to read a lot of Goosebumps back in those days.
Love those Goosebumps.
Yeah. Like the original Goosebumps. I still got them on my shelves.
I
like
just
the
went
first...
to my parents' house and cleared out the attic, and I took all of them home. I have issue 1 through 48 or
Wow.
something like that.
Welcome to Dead House.
Yeah, welcome to Dead House. Yep.
Welcome to Dead House.
Say cheese and die.
Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. Stay out of the basement. Monster Blood.
Monster
Yeah,
Blood
man.
1, 2, 3. I think there was a 4th.
Was there?
crazy.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
These all sound like D&D adventures.
No,
I actually
man.
was thinking they could
They
totally
could
be
be. I'm sure
adapted,
they've
yeah.
inspired me.
Yep.
Yeah. So I used to read the old school Goosebumps. I also used to read Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which I have as well.
I love that too.
Tremendous inspirations for me. And I wrote my own Goosebumps book and even drew like a Goosebumps cover for it. And he got such a kick out of that he read it aloud to my 5th grade class.
That's awesome.
And I'll never forget, there was the characters were a brother and sister, these 2 kids that were staying at their grandparents' house during their summer break. And at night they stayed in this 2nd story or maybe 3rd story. They stayed in an upper room that had a window over their large backyard. And at night they would notice there were these strange little dark creatures that would creep across the lawn. And one time one of the creatures even like scaled up the wall and was like peering in through the window. That was the monster of the story, were these the critters. I don't know if you guys ever saw Critters, or Gremlins, right? That kind of monster. And
One of my favorites.
there was a scene where the brother and the sister, they were doing some investigating to try to find out why are these strange creatures infesting this house, these grounds. And there were some secrets to the house that they ended up discovering, but there was a scene where their grandparents were missing. They couldn't find their grandparents, and they found one of those like pull cords, for those kind of attic
to pull the latch down.
Oh,
the
yes.
ladder down.
For that.
I keep wanting to say trap door, but I don't know if it's called trap door, but it's like one of the pole doors up in the ceiling, and they pull it, and the teacher stopped and he's like, okay, is this appropriate for me to keep reading here? Because he was, in his mind, like, dead grandparents are going to like fall out and like be, half eaten or something. And, or like the monsters would like fall onto the kids' faces and eat their faces off or something. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay, it's fine. And it was a little jump scare moment, but it wasn't anything like R rated. So it was all stayed at goosebumps level.
I just love how, like, as you're telling the story, you can tell like how much this meant to you that he read the story to the class.
Oh yeah, I got a real kick out of that. I wrote a longer book in 7th grade called Scarlet, which I still actually have that. So my 7th grade teacher, she gave us one of those vocabulary assignments where you get 10 or 20 vocabulary words and you have to write a sentence for each vocabulary word using each word in a sentence. Mm-hmm. And I stayed up all night long. My parents even like came in and were like scolding me and were like, go to sleep. And so I waited for my parents to go to bed. I turned on the closet light and I like shut the closet doors and I wrote it in the closet all night.
Wow.
I was quite tired the next day at school, but I wrote this. I don't know. It's a short book, of course. So I got through my vocabulary words in like the first 2 pages of the book. And then like the next 20 pages are just this story. But that's what happens when inspiration grabs you. It just kind of like takes you for this ride. So I wrote this story, Scarlet, and the teacher liked it so much that she also read it out loud to the 7th grade class. Yeah. And
I was going to say, you better have gotten an A for that.
Some of the girls in the class cried at that story, actually. So yeah, there's some tearjerker moments in it. It's a fantasy story, by the way. The main character, her name is Scarlet. So Mr. Z, yeah, like he turned me on to Tolkien. I loved The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings when I was a little kid, but I didn't know anything about these novels. All I knew was the Rankin and Bass animation and the Ralph Bakshi animation and the like old do you know like those old Fisher Price record players? Mm-hmm. They're like a little kid record player and they were like the small records. I had like and they would have like animated movies and Disney movies and Star Wars narrated, but for children.
Right.
Oh, cool.
So I had like the narrated Fisher Price album of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. So I loved it. But I had no idea of actual Tolkien. So he was like, oh, let me show you. And he like showed me the books and like the Tolkien Middle Earth Encyclopedia and like the map of Middle Earth and the world building. And it just blew my mind. I'm like, you can make your whole own world and a history to that world and the creatures and how they, have inhabited the different ages of the world. And it just completely, it changed my life. So yeah, it was awesome. And he took us to the Renaissance Fair and
awesome.
Stefano's a big Ren Fair guy.
Love it.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of money on a costume for the Renaissance Fair.
yeah, you can do that. Oh, that's the reality of like well-made handcrafts, right?
Yeah.
Handmade leather boots.
Yep.
It's 15 gold, isn't it? Come
on. Out of 0, maybe.
Well, thank you for sharing those stories. I love to hear that, a teacher was able to do that, bring that out in you. I know we try to do the same. So
thank you. Truly, thank you, both of you. Being able to really inspire and encourage children is so important. So keep doing what you're doing, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, so closing things out here. This was a fantastic conversation. I do want to thank you for coming on and talking and giving me some feedback and advice about Blood Lament when we were kind of first communicating back and forth. I'm excited to see your rendition of it. You are the creator. I want to see how you kind of get in the mindset of the game, and we'll make sure that we post links to all the things that we discussed.
Please do. I'm also looking forward to seeing my players run amok.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you to you, Esper, and also thank you to Bob for giving me this opportunity to speak with a D&D YouTuber legend. So thanks so much. It's been awesome.
Okay, well, it's really my honor, guys. So thank you so much for having me.
And look for more to come from Esper on his channel. Links will be down below, as well as mine. We'll try and get something going here on the channel as well, so we can get Esper back. And I'm sure everyone's going to love this conversation. This is the first in the series, Bob Talks. I'm looking to keep this going. Try to do this a couple of times at least throughout the year. So look for more content coming from me. And thank you, Stefano, for coming on and having this conversation with us. It's good to see the perspective of the player as well. You and the rest of them loved his adventure. So thanks for coming on.
I look forward to getting that book when it comes out.
Yeah.
I look forward to you having it.
It's gonna go right here during my streams.
Truly,
Esper.
Actually,
I really
you'll
do.
you'll see it. You'll see it up on the shelf.
Up there and over here. But anyway,
Awesome.
all right, we're gonna sign off. We'll see you all on the tabletop, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys. See ya.